The level of our awareness will determine the level of our involvement. This is why awareness itself, or ignorance, is such a big deal to sell to the masses of people. Because the more you know, the more you will not allow yourself to be enslaved. You will not allow yourself to accept ignorance as evolution. You won't allow yourself to pass down systems of limitation to the next generation. So there has to be an overcompensation of pride, love, beauty, hope, success, evolution. These are all the things that need to be sold to you to hide the real intention of codependency, conformity, ignorance. In order to start this process, they had to first attack the masses of people and the individuals who threaten this idea of mass conformity, a new world, smaller tribes of people, smaller nations. These mindsets are all threats to a larger system. This is why colonialism was pushed so hard, and Christianity or Catholicism was pushed even harder to install that conformity into the souls of the masses of people. Regardless of where you are or what your history is, you can take on these belief systems. And these belief systems come with attachments. Attachments to a system that does not have your best interests in mind. And by attaching something seemingly benevolent like mainstream religions or Christianity and so on and so forth, by attaching those systems to it, it passes off this illusion of being benevolent, of caring for you, of having your best interest and the interest of people around the world in mind. On a massive scale, colonialism was used to push this around the world. On smaller scales, programs like the witch hunt trials, the Salem witch hunts, the Trail of Tears, demonizing the spiritual beliefs of the indigenous people. These were all used to put the mainstream system, the mainstream religions, the mainstream belief systems, these were all used to put those systems on a pedestal built on the blood and the bones of what our ancestors had already been tapped into. The soldiers go in there, slaughter the warriors, and the preachers come in after that to clean up the mess. This is your church and your state. The church and the state were merged back in the day as like a mother and father. And to pass off this idea of evolution and to expand this system, they sold to the masses of people through their media this idea of separating church and state to pass off the illusion of evolving, of being better. After that, they've centralized themselves as a system of authority, the authority of war, control, ownership, the authority of God with the religion. And that set the stage for the authority of interpreting the very nature of the universe with their heliocentric cosmology. Since people have been fully invested into this system for hundreds of years, now they have the ability to manipulate the minds of the masses so that the masses can enslave themselves. So they had to separate you from nature, separate you from your ancestors, separate you from the balances of this reality, the sun, the moon, the wandering light bodies called the planets, the stars. The meaning of the balances between all of these things that exist in this reality. Your purpose here, all of it has to be clouded in a veil of chaos. And this idea of moving forward, evolving, separating you from nature, separating you from the reality with illusions of what this reality is truly based upon, forces you into this detached version of what you really are. This is why the cosmology is so important. An expansion of this detachment are systems like social media, the mainstream media, passing off this illusion of connection, evolving intelligence, under the reality of separation and arrogant ignorance. People feeling empowered because they have Google in their pocket. People buying into belief systems because they have numbers behind them of ignorant people to back it up. Just as the system teams up with seemingly benevolent systems like religion to make itself appear benevolent, they also have to push these belief systems in other ways. So this is why they push this idea of the American dream, the industrial age, the new world, this style of living in the Western society, this idea of large scale production, agriculture, as if that is what you're supposed to be doing. That is the evolution of our people, of this reality. They push global warming to appear benevolent, as if they care about you, as if they care about nature, as if they care about the earth, creating these illusions of fear to be the superhero, to be the savior. Meanwhile, as we know, they're causing all of the problems, adding up to the bigger problems of the world, hiding their crimes under larger illusory crimes, pushing technology as this evolution of our society, but saying nothing about the lack of sustainability that comes from this production farm, the mining of the minerals, the slave labor, hiding all of that, just like they hide the history of the system itself. Pushing this idea of sustainable living, using these key words, the new world, now sustainable environment. They're playing the numbers. They know people, masses of people who are not going to think for themselves or question reality are going to follow them. Why? Because just like everything else, why would they lie? Why would they do such a thing? It's just so unbelievable. That's why it's such a big deal. That's why such a big lie needs to be sold. Because you push people off of that cliff of, how could this happen? As you're falling at free fall speed to your own demise. They play the idea of the worldwide policemen fighting terrorism and international crime when they are the biggest criminals, the biggest destabilizers of nations. So as they're playing the superhero on the front page and hiding their villainy in the libraries of information that you're not allowed to go into, they also have to bring you down so that you don't challenge this. How do they do that? By labeling you. You can't label them, but they sure as hell can label you. This is where a perfect example of this is the idea of anti-Semitism. First of all, are these so-called Jewish people the Semites? No. That's already an illusion. Secondly, what is the intention of that term? What does it do to people? It cancels them, it shuts them down, it discredits their information, their perspectives, and it creates a space for the system to be the authority of doing something with them. There's other ways to do this. Anti-Semitism was just a good one because it's been around for a while. And it can tug at the heartstrings because there's a big event that's attached to it, a villain that's attached to it. And they can distract you from all of the other systems that have far surpassed the events surrounding that idea of anti-Semitism. So nowadays, one of the biggest ones that they use is calling you a conspiracy theorist. What does that do? That makes you crazy, makes you dumb, makes you a follower of whatever you hear on the internet or whatever kind of outlet that's outside of the mainstream media. And again, brings the system of perspective, the system's idea of what's going on with whatever topic they're talking about. It brings that up as the higher form of intelligence, the authority of perspective, and brings you down. And whatever other story that's attached to that. It's a spray gun, a shotgun. Another form of conspiracy theorists is this idea of wokeness. Wokeness is just another form of thought used to categorize you and lump your perspectives into a belief system so that they can either be put on the shelf or burned. Another way to attack your perspectives or your disagreement with these systems is to hit you with ad hominem, constantly bringing you down. These are all tactics that narcissists use. Extreme narcissism on a massive scale, hitting you with anything to distract you from the actual perspectives, anything to bring you down, to bring them up. And to jump back to the distraction, within these systems, they sell you these ideas within the Christian belief system, this idea of God is love. That's all it is. It's just love. God is love. Everything is love. What is this doing? Desensitizing you, forcing you into a belief system, forcing you into an action, forcing you into how you see this system. If everything is love, then what's all this violence and crime and war shit? It must be for love, right? It's robot love. It's Google love. It's this shit in the mouth. There's nothing behind it. There's no weight behind it. There's no realness there. There's nothing organic. It's as if your significant other asked you, what is love? Why do you love me? And you pull out your phone and you Google the word love and you read the definition of love to her. That's the kind of love that this system is selling. Shallow, empty, meaningless love. Computer program love. The love an artificial intelligence would express to you when you wake up in the morning. Like I said, as Professor Baina Bello would say, this is love in the mouth. There's nothing there. There's no real value to it. Preachers tell you God is love so you can be obedient to a benevolent God, which is on their side, while guilting you away from defending yourself against a malevolent system or devil. Like the system uses God, the system uses people, demigods, stars as they call them. They use people like Tom Hanks to act as a living demigod, a living benevolent man. These likable people to sell you the belief systems. This is why they call celebrities stars, as they dwell in the sky with God. Nonviolence is something else that they sell you, and this nonviolence and peace. It's sold just like love, but more as a demand than a request. They request your love, but they demand your peace. They demand your nonviolence. These demands are forced upon you by your nonviolent representatives, your nonviolent politicians, these stars, these celebrities like Gandhi, early Martin Luther King, and more recently by people like Russell Brand, these new agers. Like the media, all this and the system itself is designed to desensitize you. Hollywood sells you the idea of success and the American dream. Athletes and celebrities reinforce limited belief systems and the fear to speak out against the system. The media sells you fear. Public education sells you the idea of intelligence while enforcing conformity. Politicians sell you codependency. Progressives sell you trust and hope in the system in response to believing that the system is only corrupt because of a few bad apples. The church sells you shame, guilt, conformity, and cheap love to get into heaven or the afterlife. Western sciences sell the future and their authority of evolved intelligence. The New Age sells you love, awakening, and enlightenment. Movements sell you profit-centered ideas. Parents sell all the parts of this system because they are the authority figures to the individual. In relation to the authority figures to the masses, they have to sell you this system and this authority because the system reinforces their position in the world. The system is the authority figure to the masses. The parents are the authority figures to the individuals. And you're building up your individuality as a child. If that individuality is based upon conformity and belief systems linked into this system, you will be a carbon copy of your parents and do the same thing to your children as they did to you, pushing the system into the future. Friends and family maintain all of these illusions with the intention of hiding their responsibility to think and act for themselves in the crowd of chaos and ignorance. And the system as a whole pushes the family, disease, opulence, fear, pride, and ignorance to maintain codependency and the time that's needed to evolve itself into the next control measure. It's evolving itself into the future under the ignorance and conformity of the masses of people who believe in this system.